Hello, hello, hello. I think I'm live. I gotta use my computer today because my phone is still trying to load Facebook. Um, it's been doing that for 11 minutes now. So let me situate myself as I'm on this different screen again. That looks weird. So, hello, 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 beautiful unicorns. Welcome back to my weekly live video called Get Your Shit Together, a weekly live guidance with myself, Yana Kasperczak, and where I help you do just that. Help you figure out how can you get your shit together in this one area of your life or in all areas of your life, because today's topic is how to live what is it? How to live the life of your dreams. And that is not just one aspect of life, that is a whole entire life. And I will do my best to keep this as short and sweet as I possibly can because I mean, why not? Practicing making shorter videos. Okay. And actually, at the same time, these are so informative that it's more like a whole entire class or whole entire workshop, however you want to call these weekly live videos that I do, whether it's today or on Mondays, same approach. Hey, Rebecca, thanks for hopping on. And I can see the comments on my screen, which is awesome. And I don't have to go to another screen to look at the comments. So that is amazing. For me on my end. I want to start off with I there was a couple of things that just kept coming through me that I wanted to mention that will be the basis of today today's conversation. First, I want to start off with the word dream. All of us are already living a life that is a dream life, even though it might not feel good. Because if we really think about dreams and we start dissecting that word dream, do you always have great and amazing dreams? Or do you sometimes have great and amazing dreams? Or do you have maybe more often than not, you have scary dreams or uncomfortable dreams? Or do you remember your dreams? Even though we're not here talking about dreams, but because this word dream is being used throughout our language where we all want to live a dream life, but we already are. Each and every one of you is already living a dream life where there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be different types of experiences that you're going to have. You don't know what kind of dream you're going to have when you go into it. You don't even know if you're going to dream or not. Your life and your days go that same way. So, starting to look at the phrases that we use and understanding that huh, this is how it is. So maybe it's not the dream life that I want to live, but getting more specific on exactly what you want. And we'll be getting right into all of those things. Um, the one quote, actually, you know what? I might leave this quote for the end. It might be perfect for the ending. Let's go into starting with so how to where's just want to because I don't have the title written in front of me, how to live the life of your dreams. So starting off with the first hashtag, which is give less fucks. That's how you're gonna live the life of your dreams because you're gonna the dreams that you have, you don't care what anybody else thinks or says about them. You really don't care. You don't even care to share those dreams that you have that you've dreamt through the night with other people. With some people, yes, but with others you might not. And when it comes to your life, you don't have to explain it to anyone, but you do have to understand it yourself. And if you're not in love with your life, then perhaps this will be the video that will help you to start falling in love with your life or fall in love with your life a little bit more, because that is the journey itself. Falling in love with life and with ourselves a little bit more each and every day, just like we do with people in our life. We fall in love with people in our life more and more and more each and every day, especially if they're the right kind of people for us. We can't help it. And just the sheer thought of losing them feels paralyzing and terrifying. But what about yourself? What if you start looking at yourself in that way and then start to identify? Because when it comes to clarity and clarifying your life, because this is where the miscommunication happens within you. There's a certain life that you want to live, but you don't even know what that is. You don't even understand what that is. There's a feeling that's pulling you towards something, but you don't know what that is. And you can take the time to understand most of it, but you won't fully understand exactly what it is that you want, that exactly what it is that is pulling you. And only when you get there and you look back, more like when you get there and then you pass it and then you look back and you reflect and you recognize that this is what you wanted, this is what you have been feeling like earning towards and being pulled towards. So getting clear on starting off with who who are you, understanding yourself and all the different parts of what makes you you, your values, um, your triggers, your thought process, your relationships, your stories that you carry, your limiting beliefs. There's a lot of things that make up who you are, and this is something that you've started discovering and working towards and uncovering who you are since you were 7, 8 years old. That's when you started that journey of who am I, without knowing. And then you go through spiritual awakening later in life and you awaken to now, who am I? Why am I? What am I supposed to be doing? Life doesn't feel right. Things are not making sense. They feel wrong or off. Um, and that is because you don't know who you are. You don't understand who you are. You have some idea, some concept of who you are, but you don't know and you don't understand. And part of the next one is, what do you want? What do you want from yourself? What do you want from life? What do you want from people in your life? What do you want to experience? Because we're here to experience things. That's why we have feelings and emotions, because they allow us to experience. Good or bad, that's not the point. When we start looking at things as the black and white, the good and bad, the polarity is there, so we can master it all. So we can master all of the highs and lows, because this is what's going to happen. This is what dream life is actually like. Is you having ups and downs. Is you recognizing that when you set a goal, because that's another thing that you got to do when it comes to you living the dream life that you want, you got to set goals. And I'll get into goals as well, but when you're setting goals and let's say you reach a goal and you feel great and you feel confident, you know what happens when you feel confident, you feel amazing? You know exactly what happens. The same thing happens to you, same thing happens to me, and every single human being. You're going to be brought down. Do you know why you're going to be brought down from your high when you feel amazing about yourself? You're going to be brought down so you can strengthen that love for yourself and understand yourself in the process, because you don't get to learn and understand who you are when things are great, when you're on top of the world, when you feel confident. You don't get to learn anything there. You get to experience and you get to feel good, which is what we all want all the time. But if we have it all the time, how can we possibly even appreciate it when we don't feel the opposite? How would you know what confidence feels like if you didn't feel shame and embarrassment and guilt of yourself or whatever other emotions or feelings that might be causing you to feel um, not comfortable with yourself or confident with yourself? So understanding that that is a process of life, that's what happens, and once we accept the fact that we are going to have ups and downs, no matter how much work we might be putting into ourselves, that we're still going to have the ups and downs because that is the human evolution onto itself. And once we start accepting it, it becomes easier. So now let's talk about, you know, clarity on who you are and who you want to be, on what you are and what you want to be, and what you have, what you don't want, and clarifying those parts. Why is actually one of the most important questions to ask after who. After you uncover who, you got to understand why you are, why you want what you want, why you're doing what you're doing. Because the why is the very thing that is going to be actually keeping you focused and keeping you going forward. Sometimes you might forget why, but if you remember why you're doing what you're doing enough times that consciously you might not remember, but your body will remember and it will continue driving you forward. So that's why the why is so important. Remembering the why is not necessarily important because you naturally will remember the why. Your body will remember the why when you practice enough of the remembering. And then afterwards, the remembering is not important because it becomes you. Rebecca says it's like a captain living on a ship sailing the ocean. Yeah, exactly. You gotta know where you're going, and before you even get to the ship, you gotta figure out. A captain doesn't just go on a ship and figures out what he's going to be doing when he's there. He figures everything out prior to that. He needs to know who is going to be there on that ship with him, who, what he's going to be eating, what he's going to be doing, how he's going to keep himself sane um, when he feels insane, and and then where are you going to go, how are you going to go, the little pit stops, if you will. He has the final destination, which is the goal, but too many of us focus on that goal and we're focusing it in the wrong way. And here's how I want to talk about, why we focus on the goal in the wrong way is that when we, I'm going to ask you the question. I want you to think of one of the goals that you have right now that you are working towards. Bring it to your mind and think about that goal. Think and feel that goal in yourself. And the question that I have for you is, how attached are you to that goal, to the result of that goal? Because our attachment, loss and grief, it comes from attachment, right? When our neighbor dies across the street, we don't really, we might feel sadness as empaths. We feel that sad energy, but it doesn't change our life. It doesn't affect our life. But when there's attachment within us, then that is where if it takes too long to get to that goal, or you don't reach that goal and there is a lot of attachment to it, you are going to go through loss and grieving process because there was so much attachment to it. Now, one thing that I remind everyone that I work with and everyone who watches my videos when I have the opportunity, every opportunity I get, I will remind everyone that when it comes to setting goals, the actual goal that you're setting, let's say, um, I'm just trying to think, the goal would be, let's say, let's use example of our renovations in the house, okay? We had a goal to redo our bathroom and be done in a month, right? That was the goal. And I wasn't attached to that goal. And we weren't really attached to the goal because I understand the process, right? I understand that attaching ourselves to these goals is the very thing that can actually break us down and make us feel like pieces of feces that we can leave at somebody else's door, set on fire, and they'll step on us, right? And it will stink for days. But because we weren't attached and we still are doing the renovations on the bathroom now, it's usable. At least the toilet is in the sink, but the bathtub we're working on there. That if I was attached, I would have felt horrible all of these months while we weren't working on it, because my goal is when it comes to renovations, for example, is my goal is feeling. How am I going to feel when it's done? And I'm going to feel amazing. I'm going to feel proud of myself. I'm going to feel like is this is comfort. This is zen. This is my place. But you know what though? Even though the bathroom is not done, I already feel that. So I don't have to wait for me to reach that goal of completing the bathroom, because my actual goal is how I'm going to feel. That's the goal that we're all after. We're not after the actual thing of having a bathroom done, but how we're going to feel when it's done. That's what we're after. And usually, because most people focus on the goal itself, on the physical evidence to feel a certain way, that when they reach that goal and there's that attachment, that when they get it, they feel great, but it actually does not last very long. Whereas if you're focusing on the goal is the emotions and the feelings when you get there, and you recognize that you can feel it now, I got to feel a sense of accomplishment every single day. Even if we weren't doing the work in the bathroom, I see the work that we have done, and I understand that getting it done, that is not the goal. We're not this is not a race. Life is not a race. So I want to enjoy my life, and I want us all to enjoy our life as well. Yes, having two bathtubs and two showers would be helpful, but I lived most of my life with one bathroom in the house. And it was the bathroom and the toilet all in one place. It wasn't even separate. So I'm okay. Now, how attached are you to reaching that goal? And what do you think will happen if you don't? Because, um, yeah, because too much and not reaching it, too much attachment and not reaching it, it becomes a drain, and it can cause us pain and suffering. Which also brings me to the next point, that we all experience pain. Every single human being experiences pain. Pain is inevitable. Pain is part of the process. Pain is part of the journey. Pain is the most powerful teacher there is and ever will be. But suffering is optional. And too many of you are suffering with your pain when you don't have to. Now, I want you to understand the difference between pain and suffering. And it's very simple. Pain is physical body, suffering is the spiritual and the mental body. So that's why pain is inevitable and suffering is optional. And that's why it's important to work on your mind and on yourself so you don't have to suffer through your pain and see your pain as suffering, because your pain is your greatest teacher. It is. no matter what you're going through, it is teaching you so much. And until you learn those lessons, the pain will stay. And it's going to be different lessons. And I can't tell you what those lessons are because you are the one that has to figure that out. It's your life, it's your journey. Only you can understand and connect the dots with how you've lived and where you're going and what you're doing and so on and forth. So now, understanding your potential and that it is not limiting and working through and keep pushing the potential as well. That's another thing that can help you to live that life that you actually want and uncovering it in the beginning, right? Yeah, I already told you that when you're up and confident about your goals or life in general, you will be brought down so you can learn, grow, and feel confident again. And then the confidence grows as well. So if you were confident, let's say we'll use the bathroom example as well. Next time we go into the bathroom, I'll be even more confident. And then next time we go and redo the bathroom, I'll be even more confident. So our confidence grows and evolves as well. And if we stay in that confidence and feel great, we're not growing. We're staying the same. That's why it's important to go down and dive deep and then bring it up and understand it, sit with it, process it, not suffer through it, feel the pain, but move forward. And then what happens is you become stronger in the broken places or in the weaker places where we feel weaker. And then Rebecca said also has to expect a choppy water and storms. Exactly, expecting what's going to be. That's preparing for like the sailing, right? Preparing what's going to be happening, and when that happens, what do we do? Preparing for inevitable sometimes, right? Um, and Rebecca says, I think it's optional to stay in suffering. I, at this point, I know it's optional to stay in the suffering. And it is like, we all start with believing something and then moving to knowing. And once we know that suffering is optional, you notice yourself suffering so much less. And I say less because it's a gradual process as well. You gotta become stronger in the places where you're not so strong, whereas feel the suffering with the pain, with what you're going through, what you're growing through, so that way it becomes just easier and easier and easier, like smooth sailing, right? Since we're talking about water and ships and technically, no way, sailing. And that life is a roller coaster ride, like ups and downs, and uh, it is the journey itself of it is the journey of self mastery. And so when you're going through these ups and downs, the downs, they are meant to be there for growth and reflection. Another word to use for that is for you to reflect what you're going through, what you're growing through, and then what, and then what, and then what. And the reason why a lot of people are suffering and feeling the suffering is because of the who. Because if you figure out who you are, everything becomes so much easier. Because then you will not be spending your time and your energy pretending to be someone you're not for other people. You will just be yourself and no more masquerade shows that are just so exhausting when you keep changing the masks for everyone to make sure that everyone is happy, everyone is joyful, everyone is pleased, but you. And everybody else is doing the same thing. So everybody's living their life unauthentically because they don't even know what their authentic self is until they start figuring that out. And it is going to be a lifelong journey because you will continue to uncover more of who you are because of all these things that are going to be coming up for you that you're going to be working through and dealing with. But it becomes easier because you start to learn the difference between pain and suffering and not choose to suffer, but just um, there's still like a sense of gratitude in that moment when you feel the pain with what you're going through. And also a reminder that even the best of the best gurus or experts out there who understand this concept, the pain and the suffering, that they too still find themselves feeling the suffering, because it's human nature, it's existence to feel the suffering, but you don't have to stay there. You can feel it for a moment and then just feel the pain and understand the pain is there, but the mind and the spirit does not need to be there with that pain and just sitting and thinking about that pain, because when we do that, and that's why I don't recommend, when I work with women, I don't recommend staying and working through the depth for too long. And I always do my best to help um, through the call to just get the women that are in the dark place when we start off the call to get out of there so they can shift. Because when we stay in one space in the darkness for too long, we get used to it, we get adjusted. So another example, when you are in a dark room, you're standing in the room with light, the lights turned off. Your eyes are going to take some time to adjust. They're not going to, you're not going to be able to see what's in the room and walk through the room. You need the time. And that's what time does. It helps us to adjust to align with who we are. And then the next thing, this one feels confusing to a lot of people, even though we everyone understands the concept, but it takes practice to actually know how to do this, and that is letting go, forgiving, and getting support when you need to. So letting go is, oh, how do I help you to understand the letting go is not a mental game. It is a physical game. It is something that you feel physically, and it is not something that you think and convince yourself of. And when it comes to feeling that you're letting go, and when you actually feel that you let go, what you experience is gratitude. So that's when you know that you have let go of something and you've really started the healing process. When you start to feel gratitude for whatever it is that you have let go of, and or forgiveness, the same concept. The forgiveness, you must feel joy and gratitude when you forgive. You feel whole and complete. But when you don't feel that. So that everything goes back to feelings and emotions, because that is our existence. That is how we live and breathe, through our feelings and emotions, through these signals that our body is sending us to let us know what's happening around us. Our um, interpreting the world and helping us understand who we are in relation to this world that we're living in, based on how we feel. And this one, the last one I'm going to mention, is as a question. Well, first, the question is, do you know what a discipline is? Not like disciplining your children, not that kind of discipline, but discipline with yourself. And following with, like thinking, should I tell you what discipline is and what it isn't? I feel like you guys already know, but I'll share my my take on discipline. Is discipline is something that does not feel comfortable doing. It doesn't, at least not initially, or at least not every single day. And those are the things that often are have to. I have to do this, and or I need to do this. And then eventually they turn into I choose to do it. But even those days, some days you might not want to do whatever you have chosen for yourself as a discipline. And I know that discipline is one of the things that every single human being struggles with in one or more areas of their life. Um, So I just read Rebecca's comment and I wanted to say it out loud. Rebecca said the suffering occurs when we are in a period of discovery. Yeah, but at the same time, eventually we don't have to feel the suffering because suffering is the pain of the soul, the pain of the mind. We when we are in a period of discovery, of self discovery, of learning, that we might feel the pain from it. So, for example, fear. You can feel fear, but you don't have to allow fear to consume you so you feel like you're suffering with fear. So, many of you started doing live videos. Initially, when you started doing live videos, no, when I started doing live videos, for me, it was painful and I was suffering through it because it's all in the head, right? The suffering is in the head, but the suffering is really the conversation and the dialogue that is happening inside our mind and in the body, right? And the body itself can feel the pain, but this is where the suffering comes from. Anyway, so now let's go back to the disciplines. And with the disciplines, so for example, um, the gluttony. That's one word that comes to mind. And gluttony is something like overindulging, overdoing, overeating, just having a lot of one thing. So that comes to with food, with um, honestly anything you can think of. You can find yourself wanting more and more and more and more and more of that. So even like Netflix, right? Watching Netflix, binge watching Netflix, overdoing it, gluttony. Where how can you practice discipline with gluttony? Very simple. Identify where your boundary is, whether it's with Netflix, whether it's with food, whether it's with sitting down too much, or maybe exercising too much, or maybe negativity. What are you doing too much of that you don't want to be doing? And so gluttony, food. So when it comes to food, if you most of at least North America is overweight, and that's great for a lot of companies that want to keep you there and do an amazing job doing just that. Because if they didn't do an amazing job, we would already be fit and healthy in the way that we want to be, where it fits into our dream life. So that's why discipline is such a big part when it comes to building that dream life and uncovering the dream life that you want to understand. What disciplines do you want to practice and why? For me, overeating was one of them. And I've stopped overeating. At this point, I can say that I got my shit together when it comes to food, and it has been 2 months, and my body shows it because I stopped listening and paying attention to all of these so-called experts who are telling you do this diet, do this diet, do this diet, do this diet. Whereas, why is it the human beings are the only ones that go on a diet, whereas every other species have a diet? Meaning that we all have a diet, and it is not in the middle of the grocery store. It is on the outside of the grocery store. So when you go into the grocery store, your diet is supposed to be outside of the aisles. You're not going to find anything that you need in the aisles because all of that is packaged, processed, and it is not considered to be real food, because real food comes from earth, comes from nature. There's only certain animals that don't eat real food, and we can see how it affects them as well in nature. Health wise, they don't they're not healthy, those animals, and we can see that as well. And start feeding the dog human food instead of dog food, or maybe Well, even dog food is not technically the greatest. Would you want to eat space food for the rest of your life? No. Of course, then a dog wants to eat real food. So feeding dogs real food as well as if they would be eating that in nature is going to make a difference. Like when a dog is overweight, we know exactly what to do. Less food, more exercise, nutrition, rest, right? Making sure the food that it's quality food, not quantity. And then the dog does very well. And you take out all the junk food, which is their treat. It's called junk for a reason because it is junk. It does not. It actually, if you wanna, let's get scientific for just a moment and look at your body as a science experiment where you get to figure out what works for it and what doesn't. At this point, some of you have already figured out that there's certain things that are not good, certain things that are good, and maybe you started eliminating. But if you start, I lost my train of thought. If you start, let me take my really hot socks off my feet because now my feet are like I get really warm socks. My feet are really hot and it's distracting. You know when you get really hot and it's uncomfortable and your mind starts to slow down. So when it comes to food, nutrition, and what we're eating, what you're really going to be doing when it comes to food is you're going to be training your mind. You're going to be understanding what works for you, what doesn't. You know, some people they do really well without having carbs in their diet, while other people they need carbs in their diet. It is literally their system was programmed for carbs that they need those carbs to survive, and otherwise they'll be short-tempered, angry, irritated, and that means that they need them. And we're not supposed to be dieting, right? We're supposed to have a diet, and the diet is the one that comes from Earth. And like I was saying in the grocery store, that's where I left off. So when you go into the grocery store, all the foods that we're supposed to be eating are on the outside of the aisles. They're not in the aisles because it's so processed. Because you're putting something that was chemically created in a lab, not much different than pharmaceutical if we really start to think of what we're putting in our bodies, that was made in a factory that might not even have you don't even know what it has. A lot of labels are not even telling us the truth. They use these secretive words that have a lot of things in them and we don't know what they are. So we're literally putting junk because it is junk. It was made in the lab, if you will. It was formulated for you to love it and become obsessed with it. That's what fast food is as well, by the way. That's why these fast foods that have been around for a long time is because they have been designed in a lab for you to become addicted to them, to want them more and more and more. And it is not grown in nature. Like it is processed. Things are taken out. Rebecca says filters, experiments. Yes, we're all experiments. We're all, and we're not being told the truth. You guys don't even. When I realized that that is what food industry is and how corrupt it is, it became so much easier for me to embody this discipline of I refuse to put poison in my body because I know how it's going to make me feel and I don't want to feel like shit. Because when I feel like shit, I can end up going into that suffering stage and I don't want to be there. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. But also back to pain and suffering. Um, okay, so food is one, exercise is another. If your job is sitting down mostly, you sit down most of the day, then making sure that perhaps this is the discipline that you wanna instill into your life. Because the more you practice something, the easier it becomes for you. It becomes you. You become that. So that's why going back to the very beginning, what I was saying, getting clear on what do you want, who are you, and why. With the food, with the exercise, with um, training your mind. What do you do every single day that exercises your mind? Don't tell me you watch Netflix. It doesn't work because I tried that with my coach. It doesn't work. Watching Netflix is not mind training. Um, so what do you do to train your mind? I'll tell you what I do to train my mind. So to train my mind, I meditate. I sit in silence, which is different than meditation. I sit in silence. I listen to podcasts. I listen to books. I read. Um, Conversations are another great way to train the mind. Having conversations with people. This is just to name a few that are on top of my mind that help us all to train our minds to clear to clear and clean up the mind, and then top add information in. Rest and sleep, top priorities as well when it comes to the mind. Food, that's also mind training. Disciplines, another mind training. So these so another mind training that I do is whenever I feel discomfort or dis-ease or fear triggered, right? Um, Not in the way that is the way that I want to feel all the time, which is happiness and joy. When I feel negative, what I do is I sit to understand it and learn from it, and sometimes it leads me into more reading, more learning about what it is that I'm doing. Um, how to do okay, strong mind and body. Yes, that's our goal as well. Oh, this one here. How do you feel and experience fire in your life? Most people refer to the fire in their life as suffering and the pain because it feels like fire. But there's also the really powerful side to feeling that fire when you overcome the things that you didn't think you could or didn't want to overcome, and you overcome them. You feel that fire of motivation, inspiration. What was the other word? Confidence that you would feel unlimited. That's the fire that we all want to feel, and fire of growth. And the fire of growth that we feel is when we're pushing past or through our limit and what we're doing, overcoming ourselves, right? Overcoming the one and only obstacle that we have, which is ourselves in our life. And then also anger is another way how many people describe the fire that they feel. Like I feel angry, I feel fire. Someone's gonna get it. And anger is one thing that most people struggle to control because they don't even understand it. And anger is just assertiveness that has been um, exaggerated. I think. Oh, so now what I'll do is I will leave you guys with this quote. Last, last thing but not least. Last but not least, right? We don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. So when you go through life, when you're listening to this video, when you're dealing with your kids, when you're at work, when you are in the midst of a shitstorm, you don't see things how they actually are. You see things based on how you are because it goes through the filters of your interpretation, you understanding, you trying to your mind will help you to try to translate the external experiences internally. So there, we don't see things as they are, meaning that we don't see the truth. We see things as we are. We see things where we are. So if you're feeling great, you're going to be having a positive outlook of what you're seeing. If you're feeling crappy, then you're going to be seeing things in that way. And that's I feel like you guys all know this on one level or another, and it's really just a reminder to help you with yourself and with others as well. Where if you are in the midst of an argument, you are not going to see the truth. You are not going to see things as they are. You will see them as you are. And only when you walk away can you look at things and start to understand as they are. And at the same time, you're still going to see them as you are because you are still part of that. And the other person is going to see things as they are, not as they actually are. And that's why there's just misunderstandings, miscommunications happen because people are too attached to being understood by everyone. Whereas the reality is that is not what happens. We are not going to be understood by everyone, and nor would we want to be. Because if we are understood by everyone, then who is there to challenge us to grow? Nobody. Nobody. We need those people in our life that push us, that make us or force us to grow or help us to grow. That really, we need all kinds of people. We need everyone here. Every life matters. Every life is important, and I'm saying that because I hear so many people hating on other people, and to me personally, I feel like there's better way to live than that because no happy person would put another person down, even if that person is not there. And they would definitely not do it to their face. So the question is for those people, how happy does one need to be in order to let go of the attachment that they have for other people, of how other people think and feel? Our attachments, they're good. It's good to have attachments, but understanding that sometimes it is not necessary or it's not necessary to have such a deep, deep attachment that it could actually have a negative effect, to then recognize how can I let go? How can I move forward? How can I maybe forgive? And I know I mentioned getting support, and I wrote this down: let go and forgive and get support, because this is the part that most people struggle with. Understanding is one thing. We're all able to understand what we're going through, what we're growing through. With a little bit of help and support and guidance, we can do much more with our understanding because now we have another brain to help us. But when it comes to letting go and forgiving, getting support looks different to everyone, and it's up to you to figure out what that support that you need to help you do that, to help you let go, forgive, and heal. And when it comes to forgiveness, we forgive others much easier than we forgive ourselves. So that is why letting go and forgiving, it is so beneficial to have someone help you with these parts, because we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. And we struggle to forgive ourselves because we carry a lot of baggage that reminds us that we're not good enough, that we're not worthy of forgiveness. But we don't see other people's baggage. We don't see what they're going through. We don't see what they have dealing with. And that's why it's easier for us to forgive someone else, because we don't we can make up stories and make sense and rationalize to help us to forgive them. But when it comes to ourselves, that's the challenging part. And Rebecca says forgive does not mean give in 100%. Because, and this is a perfect example, a lot of people think that forgiving means giving in and then working through I forgive you and making sense of things and normalizing it, whereas you actually didn't forgive, you actually gave in and you talked yourself into forgiving, but you actually did not forgive, because forgiveness is not a thought, it is a feeling, it is an emotion. When you forgive, you feel the relief, you feel the gratitude. So that is also another indicator that, are you forgiving? Are you actually forgiving or not? And sometimes you might have to come back and forgive again because something else comes up and you're triggered, and all of a sudden, and this is why forgiving yourself is going to take time. Even with one thing that you're forgiving yourself, because there's going to be other things from your life that will come. And Gremlin is the one that helps you with this, by the way. Gremlin is one of the blocks, one of the gales, one of the four blocks that I help women to work through, and it's the one that tells you, reminds you of your past and to play small. The job is to keep you safe, right? And it does not allow you to forgive yourself until you continue to heal whatever the gremlin is bringing up for you. Imposter is another word that many of you will understand. Is when you feel like you're an imposter, you're trying to be someone, and the gremlin tells you you're not. You're not. You can't forgive yourself because of this, this, and this, and that. Okay, so you work through it. You forgave yourself with this, and that. You feel great. You feel gratitude. You move on. But sometimes the gremlin later on, at some point, will cause you to go back to that same thing and say, "Oh, no, you can't forgive because of this, and that." Now, guess what you gotta do? You gotta go and heal this, and that, on top of the ones that you already healed, this, and that. And then that might be done. Or you might go back to it again with that one same thing that you're forgiving yourself and healing through. It is a process. The expectation that we all have of ourselves, and it is that we all have of ourselves, is this instant reward, instant gratification that I'm going to sit here, I'm going to work on forgiveness for myself, and I will forgive myself. And then you feel the forgiveness, you do great, and then you expect that that's it, it's done. That you never have to go back to it, you never have to deal with it. I already dealt with it once, why would I have to do it again? I already painted the walls once, why do I have to repaint them? Sometimes you do, because even your house, even your rooms need that refresher. Even your house needs love. And when you give your house love, you will start to feel love in the house. A little bit of the decluttering and organizing things that I love to do and talk about as well. Because when we give attention to our house gives attention back to us. It nothing is solid matter. It might appear as solid matter, but it's not. Just think about all these little tiny particles holding hands, and that's what's made out of your walls. Your walls have nature in them as well. You got wood in your house as well. You got nature, and all of those things, they're partially alive, and they want to feel loved, just like you do. And you've been wanting to feel loved ever since you were a little child because you never felt it, and you still want it, and you will want it for the rest of your life. And then some of you will understand what love is and have it, and stop searching for love for the rest of your life and just have it and love it and enjoy it. So, Rebecca says, I'm decluttering and organizing my pantry cabinet as I listen to this live. Oh, look at that. Perfect, perfect timing. Oh, I think I gotta go and do that to my pantry as well. Once in a while, we all need to go back and to reorganize the spaces that we organize, because our family keeps us keeps things exciting for us, and has does an amazing job by creating little jobs for us once in a while. And we do this for ourselves as well, where we gotta go back and organize the places that we have already organized because there's there's a need for it. So that is all that I have for you guys for today. And versus maintenance, exactly maintenance. That is important. It's the same thing with even forgiveness. Maintenance can that word can go right into the forgiveness as well. It's just maintenance of the forgiveness, or continue to heal that one thing that you continue to forgive yourself for. And some of the things that you have to forgive yourself for, you might not even be aware of that you have to forgive yourself for those things. Yeah, and I can't even begin to tell you exactly. I mean, I could begin to tell you what they are, but for the sake of time, I won't. I'll just leave it up to you, and you can share right in the comments what you sense those are, or what you know those are, or what they are for you. Maybe you've uncovered some of the things that you can't even begin to forgive yourself for, or just became aware of that forgiveness is required for your own self to heal and move forward. So that is, yep, that's all that I have for you guys for today. And now, as a reminder, today's Thursday. So on Monday, I will be going live at 11:30 Eastern Time with uh, the intuitive card reading, or intuitive reading or card reading. I call them that because it's not just the card reading. There's intuition that is always coming through. And other than that, I believe that is all that I have for you guys for today. I gotta go prepare for my next call and go and hoover my lunch really quickly before my call, so that way I can be more clear minded and not be distracted by food. Because when it comes to the discipline for me, when it comes to my health and wellness, because it's not just nutrition, but even though the nutrition is the biggest part, being regular with when we eat and what we eat, and keeping the foods as whole as possible, meaning from earth and not from a factory, that is the goal. And everything from a factory, talking about wildlife, they've been enjoying it. And that's not to say that I don't enjoy the crackers once in a while, because even though they're from a factory, it's reading the ingredients and at the same time keeping in mind that not everything on there is going to be pronounceable and understandable. That instead of going to buy those crackers, we are more than capable of making them ourselves. Yes, it's going to take more time and effort and work temporarily, but in the long run, your health is worth it, because I know you don't want to wait until your health is challenged to start dealing with health issues, but you want to avoid that overall, like not deal with health issues at all. And the way to do that is to start doing it now, right? And breakfast says, I have a weakness for chips, so I buy a lot of nuts to take the place. I also had a weakness for chips, and it was so good until I started. And this is what I'm talking about when it comes to pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Is that I caused myself spiritual suffering when it came to eating garbage. And when you feel that spiritual suffering, and some of it was conscious, some of it was not, it comes from a place of torturing yourself around the fact that you're eating shit. And if I want chips, I can make them myself. But then chances are, I also know that even the chips that we make, because there's so much oil in them, they're still not healthy. So why would I cause myself more pain that can lead me to suffering and could potentially even land me in the hospital? Because when I was a child, I actually ate This was back in Russia. Chips were a little bit different. I actually ended up in the hospital, and I had my heart scanned, and I had a little bit of issues with my heart, and I was tested and probed. I even have like burn marks on my hand of where I was tested. There's like two little dots of the test that they were doing on me. You can imagine what a parent goes through when your child ends up in the hospital. And then it came down to the diet. What has she been eating? And I've been consuming a lot of junky food. And I, as a child, ended up in the hospital because I was eating junk food. So, do you think I learned from that as a child? No. I what I learned is they tasted damn good and they were so good and I would eat it. So in order for me to relearn and rewrite the stories that I have about these foods that have, again, the food industry is amazing when it comes to getting us to eat shit. They're amazing. I also work for a network marketing company with weight loss programs and stuff like that. So I understand that part and how it is an industry and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry that does not need to be there. That was created by man, by human, to create the pain and suffering and cause people to go and do the work so they can earn the money from them in that way. So, and that's why when I understood that industry, I could no longer be with it and I could no longer support it. Even though I understand, I believe the products and I believe all of that, but I am a much bigger believer in nature than in factories there. And then when it comes to nuts, there was something that I learned about nuts. You guys know me. When I know something and I have information, I cannot hold on to it because it is not just for me. And what you do with it is completely up to you. So, Bulletproof Diet. Recommend highly for everyone to listen to or to read the book. He was talking about the main concept of the book is mold toxins. And nuts have mold toxins. And that's one of the reasons why, and they are good. Nuts are good, and they're considered to be, I think they're considered to be suspect food, which means that they have the toxin, the mold toxin, but they still have good in them that it not necessarily outweighs, but in a way kind of outweighs, um, the benefits outweigh the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Whereas there's certain foods that are considered to be toxic foods that all of the advantages that the food has does not is not enough. So when we live our life, and that's why I recommend to listen to the Bulletproof Diet. I have my book is upstairs. It's orange. It's a really orange book. It's in our kitchen just standing, so we always remember. It's like a reminder because we have an Audible about the physical book, so we can look when we need to for the information. It really is just clean living and understanding the purpose of fat in our bodies, and also the fact that women need to eat and consume more fat than men because we use our brain more than they do. That's one of the reasons our brain needs to functions more on fat, and there's different types of fat. So, anyways, that is all. I'm going to leave you with that suggestion to listen to that book, to read that book, to help yourself understand the clean living, so you live the life with less pain. Because when we eat shit, we feel like shit, and then it shows, and we feel and sometimes it's challenging to not feel the suffering when our body's screaming. And on top of it, having kids screaming, having this and that screaming, it's like, oh my God, just, I want to run away. But can't. So that is all. Thank you, everybody, for listening, for watching, for being on here with me, especially you, Rebecca. You're awesome. You're amazing. Um, and until we see each other again on Monday live, at 1:30 Eastern Time for the card reading or intuitive reading, which is one and the same. I'll just be focusing on cards more so than anything. Whereas the other videos that I do, that is when I can bring in more of my coach IPEC training things to you guys. And that is all. Until next time. Bye, everybody.